Hello, everyone, and welcome to ITLS Academy Empower the Youth. So, today in this lecture, we will going to understand food safety, that is risk analysis. So, what is actually a risk is? So, let us understand this with some of the introduction part. That is, if you want to reduce the risk, okay, so reducing risk from any foodborne pathogen, that is very essential part of any food manufacturing company, and their main responsibility is to protect both the customer and their businesses. Okay, if you see the responsibilities when it comes to any food manufacturer, so the basic responsibility for them is to have a dual responsibility. Like, first is to protect the customer, and the second is to protect their businesses. So it is very important to identify, and even when you identify, even to regulate the foods that are likely to make a someone risk. Okay, so this risk analysis is doing a very great work in analyzing the risk that would be anyway come in the food. So what actually it is a risk analysis? So risk analysis, it provides certain types of policies, and it provides sometimes the information evidences that is help for the effective and transparent decision making, contributing to a better food outcomes and improvement in public health. So what it actually doing, it is providing a policy makers with the information. Okay, it provides the policy makers with certain types of information and evidences. What kind of information and evidences? Those evidences and information that is effective for the proper, transparent, and contributing to a better food safety outcomes and improvement of public health. So the risk analysis paradigm consisting of the risk assessment, risk management, and risk communication. As you can see in this diagram, there is a broad classification of risk analysis. So the first is risk communication, then risk assessment, and the risk management. So if you talk about the risk assessment, so it is scientifically based, and risk management, it is policy based. So, it provides the national food safety authorities with a systematic and disciplined approach for making an evidence based food safety decision. It is used to develop and estimate the risk to human health and safety, identify and implement appropriate measure to control risk, communicate with stakeholders about the risk and measures the applied. So, as we all are aware that since the food we consume, the food we eat is full of nutrients and full of energy. But apart from that also, there is a high chances of different kinds of risk that could be associated with different types of food. So it is very important to manage that risk. It is very much important to eliminate that risk, so that the customer could get a product of high quality, free from any sort of diseases and everything. So in this way, risk analysis is very much important to rule out the different kinds of risk that could be associated with any kind of food items. Already told you that yes, food is something that is full of different types of nutrients, energy, but at the same time there is a chances of the contamination of the food with different kinds of microbes and microorganisms. That is, different types of bacteria, different types of viruses can deteriorate the quality of the food. So it is very important to rule out these types of risk and to make a food better for human consumption. So now moving to the next slide that I've already told you, then what is actually a risk assessment? This is very important, means what is risk assessment? And so under the risk assessment, it is divided into three categories like identification, quantification and characterization. So we will going to understand each one in detail, but before moving to the risk assessment in detail, let us understand what actually a risk assessment is all about. So whenever someone is talking about risk assessment, so risk assessment is the food risk assessment include different types of things. For example, history of complaints, food safety programs, inherent products and process risk. It includes the water sources, facilities and equipment. So what is this? Someone will ask you, ma'am, why are you telling me risk assessment include all? So the simple answer for this is the definition of risk assessment. So coming to the definition part of the risk assessment, let us see the definition part of risk assessment, what actually a risk assessment is all about. So risk assessment uh, uh, the essential, or you can say one of the most important concept of any food industries, because risk assessment, it is a process of identifying the potential risk that a food can likely have. So what is risk assessment? So risk assessment, again, if we talk about the definition, so definition says that risk assessment, it is a systematic process. Which type of process? Systematic process that is used to identify the potential hazards and the risk in a situation. Then after identifying those risk different types of potential hazards, then they analyze what would happen or what should have been done with these hazards take place. As a decision making tool, since we all know that risk assessment, it is a decision making tool, so risk assessment aims to determine which measures should be implemented to eliminate or control those risks, as well as specify which of them should be prioritized according to their likelihood and impact on the businesses. So this is the way risk assessment is very important, and it is one of the major component of risk analysis. So I've already told you that risk analysis have three main component, that is risk communication, risk assessment and the risk management. So already so now generally comes the one thing, that why it is important, why risk assessment is important. So before moving to why it is important, let us read the paragraph first. So risk assessment is an estimation of the probability of the occurrence of adverse events with abundant uncertainty. Risk assessment is the process of identifying the hazard that could negatively affect on the organization's ability to conduct the businesses. The assessment helps to identify the inherent business's risk and promote the measure, process and control to reduce the impact of these diseases on the business operations. So and now comes why it is important, why it is so important. So risk assessments, it is very, they are very essential to identify the hazards and risk, and may potentially they can cause harms to the worker. Even they identify the hazards by using the risk assessment process, and it has a key element in ensuring that the health and safety to the employees and the customers. Now this is why risk assessment is very important. Why it is important? Because it is, they are identifying the hazards and risk, and they are giving the ideas, they are giving the methods, or you can say they are giving certain types of measure how to eliminate and control the risk. Okay, so the risk assessment helps to ensure the health and safety of the employees and customers by identifying the potential health. So, the goal of this process, if we talk about the goal, so the goal of this process is just to determine what measures should be implemented to migrate those risks. कौन से ऐसे मेजर्स लें, एक इफ़ेक्टिव मेथड लें कि यस जो ये प्रॉब्लम है रिस्क की, इसको कैसे हम हज़ार्ड्स को माइग्रेट कर सकते हैं, कैसे इसको एलिमिनेट कर सकते हैं. लेट्स टेक एन एग्जांपल टू अंडरस्टैंड. फॉर एग्जांपल, देयर इज़ अ सर्टेन हज़ार्ड्स और रिस्क that might determine the types of the protective gear and equipment a worker needs. Now, different industries present different types of hazards, such as risk assessment vary from industries to industries. So, some industries, if we talk about the food industry, so every food industry is different from others. Like if we talk about the beverage industry, it is quite different. If we talk about the dairy industry, it's quite different. So, every industries have different work to perform, and on the basis of the industries, the risk assessment is based on. Now, basically, there are the 5 steps of risk assessment. First of all, you have to identify the hazards. Okay, which type of hazard is it? Whether it's a chemical hazards, biological hazard, physical hazards, or microbiological hazard. After determining the hazard or after identifying the hazard, step 2 says identify the people who might be harmed and how. Now, after identify the hazard, you have identified the hazard. Then after that, you see that how it may get harmed, or how you people are getting harmed from this hazard. किस तरीके से वो hazard ना people को harm कर रहा है. Okay, after that, step 3, then you have to evaluate the risk. What you are doing, you are just evaluate the risk and decide on precautions. Means अब आपको पता चल गया कि हाँ ये पर्टिकुलर इंसान इस रिस्क से हार्म हो रहे हैं, तो अब उस रिस्क को आप कैसे इवेल्युएट करोगे और कैसे उसको उस रिस्क से बचने के लिए कुछ प्रिकॉशंस लगाओगे. दैट इज़ योर स्टेप 3. Then comes your step 4, that is record the significant findings. And at last you have to review and update the necessary. And of course, review and update is one of the most important steps of risk assessment. So you see what are the 5 how to review and update the necessary uh, okay, now comes the risk communication. So risk communication is the second tool of the risk analysis. Then what is risk communication? So risk communication, it is a process of engaging the stakeholders that includes all the interested parties, including the customers, producers, the scientists, in academia and industries, government, and various professional organization in a dialogue about risk, its assessment, and its management. So, since the name suggests communication, so whenever there is a communication, so there is always a group of people to communicate on the risk. मतलब एक group of people होगा जो communicate करेगा regarding the type of the risk, how to rule out that risk, because to rule out, or you can say to eliminate that particular risk, it is very important to have a communication on that. जब तक कि communication नहीं होगा, how you understand कि yes, this is the risk. So it is very important to have a good communication when it comes with risk communication. So it is very important to have a proper communication, And for this, of course, you need a group of people that includes different types of people, and in this way the risk can be ruled out in a very proper way. So now let's read the paragraph to understand more about it, and then we'll going to understand this in detail. So risk communication, it is a process of engaging. Already I have read it, this paragraph. So in this particular paragraph, we have seen that it is a process, or it is a method of, you can say, transmitting and the information and even the opinions in a very transparent way, with the purpose of better understanding the risk and the decision taken. Because it is not a very easy task to the मतलब कि बहुत easy नहीं होता है कि कोई भी risk को आप evaluate कर दो, आप eliminate कर दो. For this you have a proper information, proper transparency is required. So now what are the key component of a risk communication? So you should always know your audience, you should always know your target audience, you can say. You should always involve the scientific expert. That is the reason this communication would be more helpful, because you have scientific experts. Then you establish the expertise in communication. The it should be have a proper sources of information. They share a proper responsibilities. The science versus value judgment is very important. And at last, transparency and risk is very important, because it is an integral component of risk analysis process. For the risk analysis process, risk communication, it is a very integral component. Now comes the, what are the major foodborne illnesses and why they are caused. Okay, why I am saying this? Because in risk, whenever there is a risk in any of the food, okay, when there is a risk, so of course the risk, it will give you any disease, that is a foodborne disease. Now risk communication, how it does it? You have to identify, means what are the steps in this. So after identifying the hazards, you assess the risk. After you assess the risk, you develop certain types of policies. After developing the policies, you implement those policies and you evaluate that policy. So this is how the risk communication take place. Firstly, again repeating, you identify the hazards, then you assess the risk, then you develop the policy, then you implement the policy, then after that you evaluate that policy. Now, what is the relationship between a society and the risk analysis? So, risk analysis, it is a continuously evolving to address the concern of the society. Means the next three section and present a short discussion of the key concern for the risk analysis that we will going to cover. The first one is the risk management framework, that is RMF. So risk management framework, it is a template, or you can say it is a guideline that is used by companies to identify and eliminate and minimizes the risk. In the introduction part only, I've told you that companies, the food manufacturer companies, they have a dual function to perform. First, they have to work for their businesses, and secondly they have to work for the customers. So if a company is working on both of the parameters, then it is a very tough job, because in this way the companies have to identify the risk, or you can say the hazards, then a company has to eliminate those hazards. After eliminating the hazard, the company has to minimize those risks. So it was originally developed by a National Institute of Standard and Technology to help protect the information system of the US state government. Risk management, it is a process of identify, assessing and controlling the financial, legal and strategic and security risk on to an organizational capital and earning. These threats or risk could stem from the variety of sources including financial uncertainty, legal liabilities, strategic management errors, accidents and natural disasters. This is the steps through which a management frameworks basically works. They characterize the system. After that, they select the security controls. After selecting the security controls, they implement the security controls. Characterize, select, implement. Fourth is your assess. Fifth is your authorized. And the last one is to monitor. So, at every step, are you seeing they are working for the betterment of the people? Firstly, you characterize the whole system. After characterizing, na, you select the security controls. After that, you implement the security controls. Then you assess those security controls. Then you authorize the system. And at last, you monitor the security controls. Now comes what is the benefits of risk management framework. So if we talk about the benefits of risk management system, so the first one is a clear picture of overall exposure to risk. Second is improve the firm wide understanding of risk and control. Then is your reduce the operational loss, improve the deployment of capital, align risk appetite and strategy. Then is your facilitate the board and seniors management oversight. Then is your breakdown silos between various departments and across all risk, that is promote transparency, result in more efficient use of resources, improve regulator rating agency and shareholder perception, enhance the internal control. Then you promote a culture of risk awareness. So this is how the benefits of the risk management framework basically works, and they are in general. If I will not read any of the thing, but in general, if I tell you the benefits of the risk management framework is to identify the risk, is to, after identifying the risk, to work on that risk, and how to work on that risk, and how to eliminate those risks. So this is very important for any of the food industries, because any industries, not only the food industries, even the pharma industries, even the industries, all these industries are working for the people. Means every product is being consumed by the people. So it is very important for for a food manufacturer company to manufacture those food products, those food items that is free from any source of microbial contaminant, because anyways the microbes play a very bad role in our health. I'm not talking about the good microorganisms. Some microorganisms are so bad for our body that by consuming those type of microorganism, it will lead to the death of the people sometimes. So you should always have a food that is free from any source of microbial contamination, that is free from any source of different types of hazards. So in this way, this risk management framework is very important. And in general, if I tell you that it is a very effective method for any food organization, and it's basically work, or the basic principle behind this risk management framework is to protect the organizational capital base. Why I am saying capital base? Because it is working for its business and of course for the people. Secondly, it is also protect the revenues generation capabilities without hindering the growth. So a risk management framework, it allows the business to strike a balance between taking risk and reducing them. So in this way we have just finished our lecture. So I hope you have understood the lecture. But if you have any doubt, any query, you can leave your queries in the comment section below. As far as this lecture is concerned, we have completed the what is risk analysis. So in examination, this question might come, what is a risk analysis and how it is being divided and how many tools are there. So the tools are risk communication, risk management, and risk assessment. All the threes are important, and different questions, mcq questions could be made. This diagram is very important. It is more impactful if you want to make it in your answer sheets as per the question. Then comes the risk assessment. Again, this is important. They can ask you what you understand by risk assessment. What is the, you can say, what is the basic importance or the principle behind the risk assessment? What are the 5 steps of risk assessment? These 5 steps are very important, so you can go through these 5 steps. And risk communication is again important. What are the steps that are involved in risk communication? Again, this paragraph diagram is very important. Society and risk analysis is again one thing to be asked. Then they will ask you same with the risk management framework. These are the 6 steps that is there in a risk management framework, so you can answer this also. So yes, that brings to the end of the lecture. You can visit our website for better understanding of any courses you want to join, that is www.itlsacademy.com. This is our helpline number, that is 7080833450. Thank you for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe, and yes, don't forget to press the bell icon to get more update on the lectures. Thank you once again, and please subscribe ITLS Academy so that you can get our notification and the latest lectures. Thank you so much.